One day, when we just moved into the Lotus building, the first multi-story temple guest house where Prabhupada's quarters were, when we moved from the grass hut to that building, then there was a very big feast. And we invited many villagers and everyone to come. We gave a big feast. After the feast was over, all the leaf plates were thrown behind the temple. And then Prabhupada went upstairs to his room. And I was sitting in the room with Srila Prabhupada, and then there was dogs barking in the back. So Prabhupada got up and walked over to the veranda and looked over the veranda. And there he saw that there was this big pile. I mean, so many people had taken prasadam. There was a very big pile of banana leaves, which are the organic way that you eat in India, you know, off a leaf. And there were some young, some children who were obviously very poor. They had, torn clothes, and they had sticks in their hand, and they were beating off the dogs to get the remnants of food that people had left on their plates and thrown in the garbage pile. And when Prabhupada saw that, he saw that, what a scene to see human beings have to fight dogs off to eat, the throwaways, the spittings that people have thrown away. When Prabhupada saw that, literally he started to cry. Tears were coming down. And he just said, just see how hungry they must be. I mean, who would, stoop to that kind of a situation to fight off dogs, to eat, things that other people had thrown away. So he was really moved that these children are so hungry. And he said, we have to organize that nobody within a 10-mile radius of the temple is hungry. Everyone should have food to eat. So that's when he organized this. Initially it started as the ISKCON Food Relief. Later it became Food for Life. And he wanted that there should be a regular program of distributing prasadam on a weekly basis, 2 days a week. And we started all 7 days in the week we were distributing. 5 days for little children and pregnant and nursing mothers, and 7 days was simply for anybody, without any discrimination, whether they're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or anyone, men, women, young, old. So that, and Prabhupada was so moved when he saw that people were hungry like that.
So at that time, Srila Prabhupada found out that that Balaram's plow was stolen, and it was the second time, and it was made of like silver. So Prabhupada asked at the time the head pujari, and the head pujari said, well, it was somehow, anyway, he basically said they were badmas, rascal, whoever took it, and they're really going to, suffer for stealing Krishna's thing. And Prabhupada said, yes, but you will have to suffer half the consequences, because it was under his watch, and it was his responsibility. He accepted that responsibility to that service. And by not doing it the way it should have been done, he facilitated for the thief, the chore, enabled him to steal a thing. So that was a pretty heavy lesson, that we have to take responsibilities.
So after wandering around all night, I happened to bop into the temple just in time for Srimad Bhagavatam class. And when I appeared at the door, Srila Prabhupada already knew me. He already knew that I had certain problems, besides birth, death, disease, and old age, and more immediate, unpredictable tendencies. So when I showed up at the door, he stared at me, or almost glared at me, and he knew me by my first name, which was L-O-N. So he said, Lon, did you take LSD? He really put it to me. So I said, no, Swamiji. I wasn't exactly lying because I hadn't taken it for a while, but this was still going on, the effect of the last overdose. And then he was looking at me. If I remember correctly, the class came to a stop, at least temporarily. And he watched as I made my way right to his asana. And I was so intoxicated that every time I put my foot on the floor was moving away from me. So I was walking in a very unusual way. And he was seriously studying my every move. And he held peace until I landed, so to speak, right in front of him. And I kept my silence and I behaved myself. And the class went on. So there's a lot of principle there. Again, skillful means and devotional service is a razor's edge. From the point of view of Prabhupada, what should I do with this boy? He may disturb the whole class. At the same time, he's a spirit soul. He's part of Krishna. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. He needs to hear it. So giving the benefit of the doubt, step by step, he let me come to him and tolerate it and then went on with the class. So that was, again, this kind of appreciation wasn't something I was able to have on site, but as the years went by, I was able to understand. I hope I'm understanding it correctly.
The problem was I was having trouble with an abusive marriage partner, and it was like very severe, and I wanted to commit suicide. And I told Srila Prabhupada that. I said, Srila Prabhupada, I can't be Krishna conscious. I feel like I'm going to commit suicide. I just kind of laid it out. I just kind of blurted it out. I didn't know what else to do, so I just, well, I bothered him, I better tell him, well, you know, why I bothered him. Just kind of blurted it out. And then, you know. Srila Prabhupada said, you know, he paused, he was very thoughtful, you know, took me very seriously. Wasn't sentimental, like I said, he was detached. He was, oh, not, oh, you poor little thing, kind of thing, you know. He looked me right in the eye, and I was asking if I could live separately from my husband. I wasn't asking for a divorce or that I wanted to marry someone else, or, you know, I just needed to be free of the stress of that situation so I could remain in the movement and continue. And he said, he was kind of looking off, not quite looking, he was very thoughtful, and then he looked me, like, oh, his eyes opened wide, and he looked me right in the eye, and he said, there will not be other men? Oh, no, Srila Prabhupada. I mean, that was the last thing on my mind at the time. You know, I was really at the stage where the thought of man-female relationships did make me spit. You know, I mean, I was like that, but it was mundane. You know, it was forced by a mundane. It wasn't like any kind of great spiritual realization. It was just so unbearably miserable. And he said, there will not be other men? Oh, no, Srila Prabhupada. He said, you will stay in our temple? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. So those two things. It's not like he was going to sanction some divorce and remarriage. He wasn't going to go that far, you know. But he said, all right, you may stay here in the Sispalika, you know. And that was kind of it, you know.
This story, I think, illustrates how Prabhupada had a completely personal, individual relationship with each disciple, and what was appropriate for one person, maybe not for another, depending on the special relationship each had with Prabhupada. One time we were walking on the beach in Los Angeles, Venice Beach, and there was an intelligent young Indian boy that Prabhupada was obviously trying to cultivate and bring into the Krishna consciousness movement. So the boy came apparently from a good Hindu background, and as Prabhupada was speaking, he would occasionally quote some Sanskrit from the Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada would give him tremendous praise. Well, that's very nice, so you know that verse, very good. It's very good, and Prabhupada was encouraging him very much to quote these Gita verses. So I began to think, boy, this boy is getting so much attention and mercy from Prabhupada by quoting Gita verses. I know Gita verses. So I began to think, I want to get some of this mercy myself. But of course, this boy was just an outsider that Prabhupada was trying to cultivate. I was supposed to be Prabhupada's, you know, trusted son. To make a long story short, as we were driving back, when we were a couple of blocks away from the temple, I said, Prabhupada said something, I said, oh yes, Prabhupada, that reminds me of the Bhagavad Gita verse. And I quoted the Sanskrit. So Prabhupada just turned around and gave me this look and said, there are so many verses. And so that's the last time I ever tried that one.
And within about 5 or 10 minutes, some other GBCs come in, Maharajas are in and out, and the conversation is very grave. I've never seen such a grave tone. Of course, you know, I mentioned America, Prabhupada's always pretty upbeat. And then gradually over time, I don't know what the period of time was. To me, I think it was probably an hour or more. The room starts to fill up. Devotees aren't leaving. They're coming in and sitting down. And Prabhupada's, I don't know if questions are being asked or if he's just talking, but it's very serious conversations, very grave. And the room begins to pack up a little more. And devotees themselves, too, they're very, you know, you don't know how to react because you, at least for me, you never seen Prabhupada like this. You don't know what to think. So gradually, eventually, you know, you're watching all the movements of Prabhupada. He kind of looks over as the doors beginning to open. And these Madhajis from New Vrindavan, I can't remember their names, but they were famous for traveling in the van and selling Prabhupada's books. Like the men were doing. We had Radha Damodar, but they had a ladies' party from New Vrindavan. And, I mean, they're performing the same austerities, if not more. At least we had a bus with deities you come back to with morning program. There's somebody's cooking for you. You know, maybe you have to shower outside. But these girls would pull up behind the gas station, sleep, get up in the morning, open up the water tap, take their bath outside, cook for themselves, go out and sell books. You know, really, you think that's some austere service. And of course, they were well known in the movement for that, and they were getting big results. So anyway, the Mataji kind of sticks her head, and it looks like there's no room, and she's going to leave him. As soon as Prabhupada sees her, I remember his face just lit up. I mean, just like instantaneous. He's just so happy. He's like, move, 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 move. He's make room, make room. And he brings them in. He sits them right in front, 3 of them. And immediately he's just laughing and he's joking. I don't remember the conversation, but the whole room just became, you know, a big, you know, everybody's just happy and laughing out within a second. You know? Even though he looked like he was so sick before, all gone. All gone. Totally just, you know, this is transcendental person. They're not the body. So, one lesson I kind of got out of that, because again, like I mentioned in the beginning, the devotees' moods were always, not that so much, at least for me, we didn't want to try to enjoy Prabhupada, but you want to be recognized from Prabhupada. And it was amazing to see how pleased he was with these devotees. He was so pleased with those devotees. So many years later, of course, that was 1977, I met that one devotee, I can't remember her name. But anyway, she's in New Vrindavan. That was probably in 2009. And, you know, we're all talking about Prabhupada memories, and I told her about it. I said, you remember when you were in Mayapur? I said, yeah, I said, you remember coming into that room and you poked your head in? I said, what you didn't see was how Prabhupada transformed when he saw you. I said, he was so happy with you all that he just became like, you know, I mean, he was just so joyful. Instantly, before you came in that room, it was just very grave conversation. And actually, she said, I didn't know that. She thought the whole conversation had been like that the whole time when she came in. So, but anyway, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.